All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Zach, and I'm on our marketing team here at High Touch. This morning, we're going to be digging into email security. I'm in marketing. I'm in my email all the time, opening emails, sending emails, responding to emails, scanning things in my inbox, everything like that. No matter what your role is, guarantee you're going to probably learn something new today. I did helping Andrew and Jason get everything ready for today. In a second, I'm going to hand everything off to them. But before we get going, a couple of things to keep in mind for the next hour. There's a Q&A available. Please ask questions, put them in there at any time. As we're going through the presentation, we'll take time to look and see if we can answer them as we go, or we'll cover everything at the end. We're also going to have some interactive polls and examples throughout, so you can get some real-time knowledge and experience with email security. And then following the webinar, we'll send out copies of the recording and the deck to everyone that attended today. So with that, Andrew, I'm going to hand everything off to you.
Thanks, Zach. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Kahn. I'm the Director of Professional Services for High Touch Technologies. I have a background in cybersecurity and infrastructure professional services. Currently, do a lot with our sales team, account management team, and understanding what our clients' business needs and technology needs are. We have conversations with our clients to determine what's the right technology they need for their business and how to marry them up so that way they're not utilizing too much technology or too little technology to get what they need to have done. So a lot of it's around their business goals and ensuring that the technology meets their business goals. That's a lot of what I do currently with High Touch Technologies and our partners.
I am Jason Fenolio. I'm the Director of Information Security for High Touch. I've been with them for I've been with High Touch for about 6 years now. I handle all of the security stack for both the development side and the managed services side. So anything we sell, I've tested. We make sure that we work with it in-house before we use it for our clients. And so we know we have a sound, efficient stack for everyone we support. I've been in the industry for close to 30 years, and I've touched everything as far as from help desk to engineering to architecture, and found my niche in security because security is in everything, especially in the configuring of all of those engineering aspects of IT. So that's become my passion, and I feel like we can dig into a little more with that on the email security side. So we've got a poll for everyone. So when you open your inbox, how confident are you that these emails are safe? It's an anonymous poll. Feel free to be honest.
Curious on how many of you are very confident.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we got a couple of responses in, and majority of you are somewhat confident, and then we got some that are concerned about phishing emails. So very good results overall, and that's why we are having this webinar topic today, is we want to understand, like, do you know what your email security looks like, and how confident are you about not only what comes into your email, but your email going out to your prospects, clients, or anything like that? Are they being successfully delivered? And is your email security successfully protecting your business from potential phish emails or any kind of attacks that might be coming through, as you'll find out on how to recognize modern email attacks.
Yeah, and those polls actually came out right around what we would like to see. I think everybody should be concerned because email is still one of the biggest ways attackers get into our business today. Over 90% of the cyber attacks and data breaches are started from your email. They're primarily from phishing and social engineering, and they make email the leading threat vector. The challenge is that these attacks are becoming more convincing, and while the phishing and spoofing and attempts to steal credentials have hidden vulnerabilities because they have misconfiguration. Some people may have misconfigurations within their security tools or just their email platform. So what we want to do here is help you identify those risks and talk through practical ways to strengthen those defenses.
Yes, I mean, and how you recognize a lot of these modern email attacks is first you need to understand that email is still the #1 attack vector. Emails overall, everyone gets emails daily. And on the next slide, you're kind of see like why that is. It's a trusted communication channel. Your employees, you get emails constantly and a lot of email. And a lot of times to kind of go through that email, you don't always look at what it is. You're quickly trying to see what you need to do in that time. When that happens, you're making a decision of, hey, is this a good email? Is this a bad email? Or do I just need to supply information and move forward? A lot of times when that happens, misclicks can happen. Employees click on either their cell phone because they're reading emails on their cell phone. As you're scrolling the email, you can accidentally click on that URL. That URL then could take you somewhere that's inappropriate, bad, or trying to actually install something on their device, not only on their mobile phone, could be on their laptop. And now hackers or attackers are getting information directly from you because they've enabled something onto your devices. Overall, I mean, email is the gateway to business systems. One of the biggest things now is like everyone's trying to make it easy for your users to operate in a business environment. And with that, they look at setting your email as your single sign-on. And with single sign-on, that comes a lot of risks. I mean, Jason, how many of our applications do we have single sign-on integrated with?
Well, so as many as possible, just because as far as management, it's a best practice to try to tie a lot of those accounts, those cloud-centric accounts, to your identities. Makes it easier for you to be able to sever access to those other providers. If you have a Microsoft 365 account, you can tie that in with things like Salesforce or SAP. If there's something that happens between that business, if there's a breach, you could easily sever the connection. Or if an employee were to exit the company, you could easily stop access to all of those accounts at once. But since businesses become cloud-centric, that email address has become your identity. It's your username at this point. So it's very important to protect it. You no longer sit behind a corporate firewall with a VPN. You can literally access your entire business from any location in the world. So now it comes to the point of access decisions to turn less on network location, but verifying who is accessing it or when they're accessing it, under what conditions, and what level of risk. So conveying things like MFA and conditional access, least privileges, protecting modern organizations is the most important thing to do, and to make sure that you have integrity behind that domain that controls the email address makes it much more important to protect that identity that's tied to the address.
And that's overall why we see that like email still being the #1 attack vector is because threat actors out there know that your email is tied to so much, not just from a communication standpoint, but also access into your business, into systems. We overall want to make it easy for employees to work, so we try to make it easy by tying these things to certain common things, such as your email login.
And it is very easy to enumerate all of the accounts for an organization, especially through Microsoft 365 or their Exchange Online services. That could be enumerated very quickly for a threat actor. Google has a similar a way of harvesting those accounts. So effectively, they have half of your login. So next, I'd like to kind of cover some of the examples that you may see. The first one here is just a straight credential harvesting email. These might come through as like a fake login page for accessing a document. You've received something through Microsoft 365, please review it. You click on it, it takes you to a page that looks similar to a Microsoft 365 logon. Now, it's very simple to, once the person clicks the link, puts their email address in, or whatever their identity, their username is, the password, and then they'll click the MFA to get through, not realizing that this is actually a threat actor that has requested this. That point that the person can replay that login token at any time after that transaction's taken place. So it's important to look at the links and the URLs that request these addresses. Things like Microsoft might have the M separated with an R or an N. Those are typo squatting domains. Things that look similar to the normal domain that you're very familiar with, but it's very easy to overlook whenever you're just looking at an email. So our second example are invoice and payment scams. These are typically from already compromised user mailboxes that threat actors have gone in and changed invoicing where the payments are being rerouted to different bank accounts. They look similar to the business that you work with, but the routing numbers have changed. And if you don't look at those on a regular basis, it's very easy to make those changes and send money to the threat actor's account. And then lastly, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hey, real quick, Jason, I think the other thing that we've started seeing along with the invoice and kind of payment scams is also direct deposit rerouting for employees and things like that as well.
Yeah, it's very common. There was a college here recently that a few years ago, they were able to hack in and change all the direct deposits for all their employees. So it's very common, came through in an email initially. So yeah, the third and last example we have for you is just a good old-fashioned deployment of malware. Those usually come through links that may say that here's your updated printer driver, or here's the new firmware for your PC. Hopefully you have something in the background that is able to detonate those links or run those files in a sandbox, determine they're malicious, and hopefully those emails don't even reach your inbox.
And the next poll we have is, we're curious, have you seen any of these types of suspicious emails recently? Like from our examples, we've seen them all, and it's interesting to see how companies respond to those types of emails and what they do. But it's very common for one of these or some of these to be seen, or all of them. Like I said, they come in pretty often from what we see from our email security tools. So looking at the proposal overall, we have a pretty good mix. So about 17% of you see phishing emails asking for logins, around the 28% for fake invoices, 25% is for emails pretending to be from Microsoft or another trusted brand, and then 20% for impersonating executives or coworkers. So very good and high overall that you're seeing these. How you respond to it is the other aspects and importance of it. And as we go through this, we want you to be able to identify any hidden vulnerabilities. So through our next slides, we're going to go through some of the hidden vulnerabilities between what may come through and what you need to spot for. And Jason has talked about this a little bit already, and we're just going to go a little further into that.
Yeah, these are just a few more examples of some of the emails we've seen so far. So in the top left there, that's the domain spoofing email. These are where attackers have forged the from address, but the actual header in the background has a different address that they reply to. These can come through with a display name such as IT support. If they've done a little bit of OPSEC, open source security, open source reconnaissance, they can determine who the MSP is that supports them and tie their name in there. They can go in there and change the name. This is especially important because most people are using their mobile phone to read their email, and right off the bat, those emails don't show the full email address. They may just show the display name. You have to do your due diligence to click on it and expand that to be able to see who the actual email is. And in a lot of cases, that is that's being hidden in the background. Second, on our top right side, the lookalike domains. I covered this a little bit already. It's things that look like Microsoft, except the O is a 0. Those are a little more easier to identify. Arnazon, with the A and the N together to look like Amazon. Those things are very difficult to pinpoint, especially on a mobile device. There's certain alphabets too that have letters that look similar to English, but are entirely different whenever the domain's registered. The example here would be like a Russian Cyrillic A looks very similar to an English A, but it would effectively register a different domain name. The bottom left, we'll talk about display name deception. So this is very common with your C-level, your accountants, people that deal with any sort of monetary decisions or IP. If somebody's doing some reconnaissance on your business, they could put that name in the display name, but it could be a different address entirely. It could be from a Gmail. I think the most common thing we've seen is the CEO of your company reaches out to a new hire and says, go buy 5 Best Buy gift cards for me. You know, typically that's not going to happen, but a lot of times a new hire doesn't know and they go out and do it anyway. We've actually seen this scam run several times. There's things such as like VIP filtering where you can tie names, the display names, to the actual addresses that will actually email into the company. So that way the display name is tied to specific addresses. And then lastly, the brand impersonation. These are domains that look like originals such as PayPal.message or PayPal-bank or Microsoft-live. Live.com is actually used by Microsoft, which makes it a little tricky, but they'll typically tie on something at the end just to where they can see the Microsoft and may jump through and click the link without investigating it any further.
This next one is highly technical in a lot of these things. Overly, what we are trying to explain and have you understand is some of these requirements or some of these devices and items that you can protect yourself with don't cost you extra. They're a part of your domain record capabilities. Sender policy framework being one of the most important. If you are anyone that sends either mass emails, sending email through Salesforce, Oracle, Constant Contact, SurveyMonkey, HubSpot, things like that, your SPF record basically allows those other devices, those other systems to send email on your domain name's behalf. If you don't have those records configured properly, email will fail. You'll get bounce backs, you get undeliverables, anything in those regards. The domain keys, identified mail, and then the domain-based message authentication DMARC, those are important because those are ways to actually create a signature on your domain, basically authenticating that this is in fact a legitimate domain that's been registered, that is secure. When emails get sent out from those and have those identifiers in there, the recipient side sees that and will allow those emails to go through. And some even from Salesforce and stuff like that can provide DKIMs for those to make sure that their emails go through fully. This is one of the reasons why we want to make sure that if you don't have these tied to it, it's very important that you look into these, because back in February, March of 2024, Google and Yahoo were the first ones to require a DMARC policy out there for mass mailing of bulk emails. If you do not have a DMARC policy in place and are trying to send bulk emails through Constant Contact or anything like that, you will get denied or blocked automatically.
Well, and what's one way you can bypass that?
Let me guess.
So
It all depends on your
the DMARC.
Yep.
So the one thing that I'm mentioning here with the DMARC, you have to have a DMARC record in place, but if you mark it as a none, it still meets that requirement for you to allow emails being delivered to Yahoo and Gmail, but effectively the policy of none does nothing. It's literally just for testing purposes. The only thing that really does anything is a quarantine or a reject. So you can get by sending things to Yahoo and email with that record, but effectively it's not doing anything to help secure your domain.
Yeah, if you go on the next slide, you'll see this is kind of an example of what we're talking about. So we just looked up a random one that we could find, and this one was relevant just because it's a staffing agency. So they are going to send a lot of emails out to try to get people filled in different roles and various things. But if you look, they don't have a DMARC record policy found. So it means if they were trying to send any bulk emails to potential businesses that are looking to hire people, a lot of their emails would get bounced. They would get rejected because they don't have that DMARC policy in place. If they're trying to send it to potential people that are applying for it from an applicant pool, same thing. A lot of the times those applicants are going to have a Yahoo or Gmail address, so those will get. So their business could be not as great as, or their growth potential for their business not going to be great there because a lot of the things they need to have in place are not there. The one thing that we talked about on our, as we were preparing for the slides, like essentially that DMARC, if you have it there, but you have that none, it's basically like you're putting a fence or a gate in place, but there's nothing between on the other sides of the fence, and all you have to do is just walk around the fence to get in. It's essentially a kind of a band-aid scenario. And then on the next slide, this is an example of what we're talking about from the SPF record and the DMARC. As you see on the SPF records, this has a couple of different things pertaining not only to their email domain, what email platform they're using, if they're also utilizing some type of email security platform, and they also have the IP addresses down there. So that means they probably have more than 10 domain DNS records. They had to flatten it out to make sure that they could get email delivered. If you have more than 10 records that you need to have put out there, this is something very important because if you do, because 11 is the minimum, right, Jason?
So the 10 is the maximum.
Okay.
And then you also have to include any records underneath those domains that are listed in the includes or the exists files. So if there is another DNS name underneath that initial include, that will count as your total. There's a really great tool called Easy DMARC that can go through and count how many you have. But if you feel like you're uncomfortable doing that, we can certainly check that out for you. But that's something that people don't really look into. It looks like there's only 4 here, but there's possibly nested names under each one.
And then the highlight there on the DMARC, oop, got one. That P is what we're talking about. P equals reject. So when Jason was going through and talking about the policy is there, but you need to have either quarantine or reject to really make the policy operate. That is what we mean by P equals reject. And then the other thing that we wanted to call out as we discussed in our preparations was the tilde all. So Jason, can you talk about that?
So yeah, so we recently moved our email security to a new system, and we had to touch basically everyone's SPF records and add this new entry. So what we wanted to do is make a concentrated effort to change everyone to a -all, which is called a hard fail. That means that everything before it is exactly what sends as my domain. If you have a soft fail, it does put in conditions to where there's other items that could be sent through. Somebody could be masquerading as that domain name, and the receiving domain, the receiving email provider could, depending on its policy, allow those emails through if you have a soft fail there. So the goal in the long run is to have a -all and make sure that you know exactly who is sending as your organization.
Thank you, Jason. And then this slide again is just showing DKIM was not published as well. So there's a lot of identifying indicators that this company could have. put in place to not only protect their email and their domain name better. DMARC is another thing that could actually help protect you against from domain impersonations. Having that in place will go through, and that way they can't be copied and impersonated because they need that identifying signature. And with you having a DMARC policy in place will give you that signature, so your domain name cannot be spoofed as easily as if you did not have it.
Or the DKIM.
DKIM, sorry.
Yeah, the DKIM is basically a signed signature for your emails coming through. And when you have a DKIM in place, that trumps all. It's basically that email is going to be allowed, regardless of anything else you have. It's a secured signed email being received from that provider.
And if you're in a Microsoft environment, it's very easy to get that enabled.
Yeah, it's provided for free. So most people don't have it configured, and it's very simple to set up.
Yep. And also does the rotation of the keys to keep it protected.
Yeah.
And if you would be interested in learning if your organization's email has these protections, like I said, please mark it. Yes, no, not sure. You've heard about it, but don't know the status, want to know more. That gives us the capability to go through and help you out. Again, we would love to just be able to meet, discuss, and understand what you might be missing and how we can assure that whoever you're trying to email not only gets there, but also emails coming to you, you know it's going to be safe and secure. Thank you. So where does email security usually fail? Email usually fails because from a user standpoint, they are not trained or they don't know what to look out for. Business email compromises can happen quickly because when a user gets compromised, as we discussed early on, that email could be their sign into a lot of different things. With the addition of AI now, threat actors don't need to do much. They can start downloading all the mail that user has, load into AI, and have it start learning how the user speaks. When that happens, the now threat actor can go through and start injecting themselves into conversations, hijacking the conversations, compromising even further to where now they can start redirecting email accounts from wire transfers, banking information, and things like that, because now they're able to speak as you without all those grammatical errors in the past. So before, a lot of times those were easy to spot because it was a human trying to do that aspect of it, and the grammatical errors were very visible. Now with AI writes as you because they've learned just through analysis very quickly how to speak as you. Compromised mailboxes, they contain a lot of sensitive information. I know there's some companies that still utilize their mail as kind of like their file storage system. You want to be very careful with that because if your email does get compromised, the threat actors now have access to all that information, not just your banking information, whatever files you have there, any IP that you have, intellectual property, that information is all now available at their hands. Even if you're a compliance-based organization, you have HIPAA, PHI information uploaded. That's a risk and aspect of it as well. When business email compromises happen, I mean, your operational disruption is huge. You could be shut down because if they are looking to do harm, not just steal your data, they can create denial of service attacks to where they start blasting so many emails out, your email servers get shut down. And the work to get you off a blacklist is time consuming. I mean, it could take days. Usually it's not quick because you have to go through all the audit and send justifications and proof that you've done everything that you needed to do to ensure that mail does not get spammed out again.
Yeah, and you have to stop that the leading of emails, the download of that contact list that the user used to mass mail everyone. So if that person is very connected, literally thousands of emails can go out to all of the businesses that they do work with. So it's important to stop the information from going out to basically remediate after all the damage that has been done from that mass mailer.
I think
And then going back really quick to that the file system, you talked about PII and PHI. If you are under some sort of regulatory compliance, think about all the records that you may have in your mailbox. That record count could count against a fine that could be levied against your organization if a breach were to occur.
And the other thing, Jason, I wanted you to kind of talk about too, is like when business email compromises happen, a lot of times the end user doesn't know because they put rules in place. What generally those rules do?
Yeah, so the rules are created to basically take visibility out of those covert communications that are happening. There's a folder called conversation history that typically threat actors use to redirect any of those communications to that mailbox. And they could transact invoices or purchase orders and basically tell the client to pay for those invoices and send them to a different routing number. So this is all going on without the owner even knowing that it's occurring. And especially if you use Outlook, that folder is typically way down on your folder list, so you have no clue that it's going on. So it's important to have something in place to notice when anomalous rules are being created, so we can put a stop to that as quickly as possible.
And that will bring us over to how do we find common email security gaps?
So yeah, so I'd like to cover the most important gap that a lot of organizations have. If you're doing business on the internet and you have cloud-facing resources, you have to turn on MFA. It doesn't matter what is going on with the organization. If you have mitigating risks that you can control with people that don't need MFA, put something in place to protect those accounts even more. But I would say 99% of your accounts could be protected with multi-factor authentication. If you have situations where you do need help with those accounts that can't possibly use MFA, reach out to us, and we can figure out a way to protect those accounts even more. Employee awareness, that's probably my top tier after MFA as far as security controls that you could put in place. Your staff has to practice seeing these phishing attempts coming through. Phishing campaigns are invaluable to your organization because they need to see how exactly they're going to come through. We talked about email domain hygiene, SBF, DKIM, DMARC. These are security assets for your brand. They're there for free. It's out on the internet. It's part of what makes you function when you do business through email. And then, of course, monitoring and alerting. Things that these are security controls that you have in place to see if anomalous activity were to occur. This is also something that needs to be in place for anybody that does business on the internet and uses email to transact. So let's talk about strengthening those gaps. I kind of dove into it a little bit. So identity protection, MFA, that definitely is something that you need to put in place. It's better than nothing. A username and password doesn't cut it anymore, especially whenever emails can be enumerated from any cloud-based service. They can basically take combo lists from the dark web and pair those passwords with those usernames. And I would say a lot of the times those are going to hit because users just like easy passwords. So if you have MFA in place, that's just another level that somebody has to jump through, another hoop that a threat actor has to jump through to get access to your account. So employee awareness, we talked about the phishing simulations. providing training to your employees is very critical. And even going above and beyond and having some sort of like internal blog or some sort of town hall where you have a person regularly speaking about new scams. What are the new holiday scams coming around? There's a new DocuSign scam coming through that's very difficult to prevent because it uses the DocuSign service. So communicating with your employees makes them part of your security team. Authentication controls. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Jason, on the other side on the employee awareness is also like, as we talked about a couple slides ago, you've seen emails come through. It's good to talk about those as well from an organization standpoint, and allowing employees to speak at, hey, I saw this, bringing that up, and also recognizing and rewarding probably your team of when they recognize that. So that way they know to bring this up. That way they don't feel like every time they bring it up, they're just being a damper on security, in which they're not. They're helping you be more structurally secure.
Yeah, they definitely brings them into your security team. A very it's a community that you want to bring up. It's a important culture to foster within your organization. So authentication controls, we covered that in depth. Basically, you need to go ahead and configure these free items. They're functions for your domain to maintain integrity. And us plus any sort of IT support, anybody that's knowledgeable with authentication controls. If you don't meet with us, reach out to someone that will do it. But I will say that we are experts in helping you configure that for your organization. And then threat detection. We have several tools in place that have a defense in depth when we talk about BECs. So somebody's actually gotten through. None of these are 100%. You got to have something behind to basically alert and stop the breach if it happens. Lessen the amount of time on the attack. So we have things that look for anonymous logins anonymous logins, things that don't match up, like as VIP filtering, if the names don't match to a specific email address, impersonation, and of course, malware that comes through emails. We don't even get those coming to our client's inbox. So there's several things in place that we have that can protect your mailbox, even if that breach occurs.
And Jason, on the VIP filtering, so for like people that don't fully understand, the other way that you could also utilize VIP filtering is like, I have my own personal email address. If I provided that to the company and they added that into the VIP filtering, they would know that, hey, this is his personal address. So when he emails, he's having a problem probably with his work email and had an email through this other way, right?
Yeah, correct. So we basically identify every way an important employee is going to email into the company. The one that usually gets missed is like the iCloud account for their Apple account. That by default sends emails as that username, but it has it at iCloud.com. So you want to make sure that they add that in your VIP filtering. But it does take a little bit of assistance in figuring out every single way that a user is going to be emailing into the company.
And the other side of it, from the strengthening aspect, two things that are on most cyber insurance questionnaires are the MFA for the identity protection, and then some type of security awareness training from the employee awareness perspective, right?
Yeah, that's either going to be a straight denial, or you're going to have very high premiums if you don't have those in place. The controls that you put in place, the cost that you may incur in putting those controls in place may actually offset some of the premium charges you get with your insurance, or without them, you may not even get cyber insurance at all, which is critical these days.
Thanks, Jason. And a lot of you are probably asking, with a lot of things that are free, additional email security isn't needed. So Microsoft and Google do have built-in protections. And even though with the built-in protections, that's just a layer that a lot of times is missed because they're protecting from what they are see most commonly that hit their organization. From the third-party email security tools, you get a lot because they are seeing it from a wider gamut. So from other businesses, other entities, other email hosting platforms, they're seeing all the threats that are taking place or trying to take place and provide that additional layer. If you've been a part of us from other webinars, you see us talk about the Swiss cheese. There's layers of protection that we want to ensure that your business has to kind of protect from all those different holes that come through. The more you layer on, the less gaps you have. With the third-party tools, the other things you'll get is from an IT perspective, internal administration, you'll get granular information to be able to understand how something happened and how it needs to be addressed and how it needs to be remediated. A lot of times with the default Microsoft or Google tools, they'll tell you something happened, but doesn't give you enough information of why, when, where, and how it correlated. That is the reason why, from our opinion and perspective, a third-party tool is always going to be better than the default. It just gives you more visibility than what you currently have, as well as they're just more in depth in what they see to bring back and protect a business. But one of the other things that like our tool that we like that has before, Jason used to have to stay up nights just trying to do email cleanup when a business email compromised, because in order to delete a mail that was scattered in a mailbox, he'd have to run a PowerShell with certain things. Our tool allows us to do that from a one-click perspective and remove that that bad mail now from people's mailboxes.
And we can do it through across all of our clients. So if we have several clients that do business with each other, which is very common, I can basically search for that email and remove it from every one of our clients with one click. It's amazing. I get to sleep at night, so it's a great feature. And I also want to add that the third party tools that we use that tie into Microsoft and Google, the feature set that you receive with those are often considerably cheaper than the license increase that you have with Microsoft. They're going to charge each user that has a license to bump up to that feature set in order to get those functions. And with these other tools that we use, it just comes in default. So you're going to get those features without all the added costs to your Microsoft or Google licensing.
Good point. Thanks for calling that out, Jason.
Yeah.
Overall at High Touch, we make things easier. We have a depth of IT expertise. Over 40 years as a trusted technology partner. And the managed IT services side, we focus around advanced cybersecurity solutions. We do strategic consulting. With our consulting, we want to understand what your business needs for technology are, what your business goals are, and how can we help technology meet those needs and goals. When you meet with us, that's what we want to start off with, is understanding how do we provide you the best service possible by ensuring that whatever we offer you meets your goals. Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Zach. You can move on to the next one. Yeah. So if you'd be interested in a follow-up meeting or risk assessment, please let us know. We would love to be able to meet, understand what your business needs are, what your business goals are, and ensuring that technology is meeting those needs for you. Because again, there's a wide array of technology out there. And a lot of times with our help, you can understand what you might be missing, if you're missing anything at all. Or do you have stuff that's doing more or not enough that you're already paying for? Those are how we help. Then again, from the next webinar series, save the date, Thursday, May 7th, we will be talking about compliance. And the difference in compliances will range varies from PCI, HIPAA, CMMC, NIST. Those are different. So NIST more from a framework standpoint than a compliance standpoint, but a lot of those will be into the conversations. If you're a business that is in a compliance state, very good one for you to join. or if you're looking into potentially getting into some type of compliance, we will be discussing that. Questions? I know we didn't answer all the questions through our slides, so gotta give us some here. Well, I know some of the ones that we did get through emails over. One of it was like, even with the email security tools in place, we still had a business email compromise. Again, when we talk about email security tools, it's always going to stop defense standpoint. Users are still going to be your weakest link, unfortunately. It's just the way it is because threat actors are getting very smart. AI tools are getting very good. Your users, they can't keep up with the ever change of technology. That is the reason why we say security awareness training is very, very important. And teaching that down as a global community in your business makes them more empowered to be a part of that conversation. That way they can better understand what to look out for. Training your end users is the most critical besides having the security features in place, because they can start learning and spotting. Again, if you can get them to start reporting things and bring it out from either town halls, your check-in meetings and stuff like that, make them feel empowered about those kind of things, because the more empowered they are, the more they're going to bring up to you guys, the more they're going to bring up to IT. And trust us, from an IT perspective, we like our users sending it in and showing, so that way we can be like, great, high five. That's what we need. I mean, it's very satisfying to see people start interacting that aspect of it. It just makes us feel a lot better knowing that we can sleep at night because they're looking for these things. They're slowing down a little bit. We understand businesses move fast, so them slowing down to spot these is very appreciative.
Well, I think on the same subject of the MFA conversation, if you haven't had that with your organization, it's very important. But just to let you know that we've walked many clients through that, just because we move people to MFA if they've come on board with us, and it's important to show them how it's done, show them how it will work with their devices, or if they're using a different method like a pass key or a YubiKey, or just simply a SMS text on your phone. We can show you how each process works. And then we'll also make sure that you have that training that discusses MFA fatigue. What happens if I get several MFA prompts at once? What should you do if that were to occur? It's things like that, the training that goes along with multi-factor authentication. I think it's very critical when you make that move.
And there's ways to set up the MFA based off how your business operates from location perspective. So it means if you only operate in Kansas, we can restrict the MFA to just Kansas. If you operate outside, then we can expand the borders. I mean, we can lock it down to just US. We can also block certain countries that we know for sure you'll never touch, right? So there are a lot of granularity in that.
Yeah, that's part of that risk mitigation on MFA. If you have manufacturing and the workers don't have any sort of devices with them, or they don't want to use their personal devices, we could restrict an MFA exception to the building that they're working out of. We can say that this is allowed because we actually have physical controls in place to create access to any sort of the computers that they use to access their resources. So there's ways to work around it. But essentially that's going to be that 1% that you probably can't use MFA on, but everyone else should have it.
Yep. All right. Looks like Mike sent in one, so appreciate that. We're a fan of you as well, Mike. So let's see. Mentioned setting up about DMARC. The policy at none is a false sense of security. So yes. So when you have a DMARC policy and the P equals none, basically just means that you have a policy in place, but you're still allowing things to come through, even if if the other senders and stuff like that don't have a policy, then that none basically says, okay, they don't have a policy, but still let that email through.
And he talks about simulated phishing too. It does seem to wear out. Mike says the simulated phishing does seem to wear out end users. What other modes of training are you guys seeing that's effective? So the training we use, we have other kind of testing that is available where they can run through several emails and find click the red flags, or if it's a legitimate email, or there's even a test where it shows deep fakes, which ones are real, which ones aren't. Just as something to kind of mix it up. But if you have situations where your users are getting worn out, but your percentage rate is fairly low on clicking, you could adjust the policy to where it's only doing more phishing campaigns for those clickers. Those people that are trained and they reach out constantly, they basically verify before they click. You could push out their campaigns even further, so you're not burning them out. So there's certain policies you can shift, but there's different ways you can do it. I think those are just a few options.
Yeah, one of the biggest ways that we do it that seems very effective is our during our town halls, we do a section called Security First. And anytime that we have something there that's new, that's coming out, that we're starting to see more commonly, Jason does very good at bringing that up and as a topic point, so we can have discussions around that. But again, we also try to make it to where users can submit certain things that they're spotting as well, so we bring that out in front. Like I said, if you empower the users to provide feedback back, that won't make it feel so, they won't make them feel more worn out about it because they're part of that solution now. Instead of the message being pushed down to them, they're also helping push the message around. The other things that we've done, like I've done, I have two boys. I've kind of, a lot of things I learned from work too, I bring home so that they can learn as well. As I see kids are growing up, once they get into the working world, they're going to need to understand and learn about this as well. And they can also teach and educate not only their peers, but their teachers, because some teachers also run into the same scenarios and they don't understand as well. One thing that's cool is both of my boys are in Scouts, and Scouts actually added a new merit badge for cybersecurity, which I thought was really cool. And I was like, this is great. It's finally, Scouts has always been like a wilderness survival scenario, but now they're finally allowing technology and getting technology into there. And my boys were all about that. They're like, can we do this one first? I'm like, no, you got to work on your evil ones first.
Yeah, Girl Scouts has done the same thing. In fact, in the next month or so, I'm going to be doing a little bit of training for the girls. My wife is a troop leader, so it's good to see both organizations pushing that forward and creating merit badges for it.
Yep.
All right, it looks like that's all the questions we've got for you guys.
All right.
Awesome. Again, we thank everyone for taking time out of their busy day to be a part of our webinar. It's very important for us to just be able to reach out, educate what's going out there, what's happening out there, and then how to protect your businesses from different things. We understand that email is the #1 gateway and the #1 attack vector, and that's why it's very important for us to educate everyone on what the possibilities are to protect your businesses. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much.